Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Big Air 01 coming at you with another video. This could be my second video on my brand new 2024 Yamaha FJR 1300ES. This bike I just purchased it recently and I bought it new, and it's due for its first oil change and service. And so in this video we're going to do a quick oil change, and then I'll also talk a little bit about the break-in period, what Yamaha recommends on how you break these bikes in. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Alright, so we're over here on my little bench that we've got set up here, and I'll go over a few things that you're going to need. You may or may not need a oil filter wrench to take it off, and I do have a tip on how to take it off if it gets quite tight on there, and we'll see if it comes off easily. You're going to need a 17 mil socket for the drain bolt, and I like to use a little extension when I'm using these wrenches so it doesn't catch on anything. I've got my FJR 1300 motorcycle manual. We've got a bucket and a oil filler. We've got the actual oil itself. Obviously I'm going to use Yamalube for its first service. It's really important that you use good oil, and Yamaha recommends Yamalube. And then we have the oil filter here, which is a Yamaha genuine parts as well, and the part number is right there. So yeah, so it's pretty simple. Basically you have your oil filter right here. You've got your oil check like glass right here. You can see it's actually quite dark in there. It looks a little full actually. You've got your oil filler here, and then you've got a drain bolt underneath right here basically, and that's going to be your 17 mil. So let's talk a little bit about the break-in period. So for the break-in period, basically this is what the manual says. So basically 0 to 1600, you shouldn't take it over, I think it's 5400 or 40, or let's talk about this. So 0 to 1000 kilometers or 600 miles, it is never take it over 4,500 RPMs, which is basically the shift point. Around 4,000 I guess is the shift point for most of these gears. And then you got after 1000 or 600 miles of operation, the engine oil and final gear must be changed, and the oil filter cartridge or element replaced as well. I'm just doing the engine oil. I was talking to the sales guy, and he says you shouldn't need to do the final gear oil at this point. And then from basically 1000 to 1600 or 600 to 100 miles, don't have any prolonged operation over 5400 RPM. And then 1600, it basically says the vehicle could be operated normally. And I did forget to mention, it says, you know, up to the 1000 mark, it says since the engine is brand new, do not put an excessive load on it for the first 1000 miles. So meaning don't lug it if you don't have to, that kind of stuff. So it's really important that you break it in, because when you break it in, it's going to make your motor last a lot longer, and you're going to have a better performance out of it as well. So let's get into changing the oil now. So the first 1000, so this is on the periodic maintenance and adjustment table. This is on page 7.3 of the manual. It says adjust the fuel synchronization. I'm not too worried about that. It seems to be running fine. We're not going to do a diagnostic check. The clutch is fine, the front brakes are fine, the rear brakes are fine. Everything's been working really well. All the bearings and everything have been working really well, so we're not going to do any, you shouldn't need to do any checks. You'll notice if you have any issues. Side stand switch works properly. Your engine oil, which is what we're going to do today. Again, we're looking under the 1 month or 1,000 mark. And then your front and brake switches, everything all seems to be good. There's nothing major that needs to be checked other than the oil. Okay, so now we're going to get into, I've put some gloves on just to keep my hands from getting all dirty. But to change your oil, you want to be on your center stand. You should also check, the manual says to check your oil every time you run it. I mean, or every trip. And whenever you're checking your oil, you should always check it on the center stand. And if you don't know how to check it, there's a glass right there, and then there's two little knobs there, and or two little, I guess, nicks in the right beside the glass. The oil is supposed to be within that those two marks. So it's a little bit full, but you can see it's quite black in there. This bike's at the 960 kilometers basically right now. So, and I want to change it out before I go on any more trips, because, I just want to make sure I'm following the recommendations for warranty purposes. So, first thing you got to do though is you got to warm it up. So we'll fire it up and let it warm up for 5 minutes. As you can see, we're at 960 kilometers. I've been averaging averaging 5.2 kilometers per 100. We're gonna go wait till that C temp comes up. Okay, as you can see there, the thermostat already opened up and it went from like 90 degrees back down to 60 degrees really quickly. And as you can see, now the oil level is within the proper range there. So now we'll drain it and see how clean, or if there's any shavings in the oil or anything like that. Now right here, there's a little bolt. I'm just going to loosen it here. Just be careful, the exhaust is right there. So you want to burn yourself. I'm going to remove the filler cap, so let some air in there and help drain it. Okay, so it's almost drained. I'm going to put a little rag in here so that when I loosen this oil filter off, it's not going to leak all over the place. Well, it's unavoidable. It's going to leak a little bit in there, so we'll let it drain. It's going to be normal for it to drain like that. We'll just make sure when we put it back together that we clean all that oil up so it doesn't smoke after it's all back together. Okay, so you got to just put a thin film of oil on the new filter, and then I've got my rag in there trying to soak up some of it. Cleaned it up in there as best I could. It doesn't say to put any oil in there. I think it'll just all slip out anyhow the minute you go and put oil into the filter itself. Okay, so to tighten the oil filter on, it says to only tighten it to 13 foot-pounds in total. So we're just going to go till it's snug. We're not going to go super tight. And then you're just going to watch for leaks down the road. Make sure it isn't leaking. And we're going to put the drain plug back in. I'm going to continue using this crush washer, and maybe the next oil change I'll change it out. So for the oil filter, it is either 17 Newton meters or 13 foot-pounds. And then to tighten the engine oil drain bolt, it's 43 Newton meters or 32 pounds, if anybody's curious as to how tight you should tighten it. I basically just go till it's snug. I don't really, and I just watch it. Make sure it doesn't leak. Just don't want to over tighten it. Because we did a filter change, we have to do 4 liters of, or 4.23 US quarts, so, or 3.52 imperial quarts. So I live in Canada, so we're gonna do 4 liters, which is what I purchased of Yamaha. And if you weren't doing the filter, then it would only be 3.8 liters. Okay, lastly we're gonna put the oil filler plug back in. You want to make sure it's nice and clean, no debris. Okay, at this point you can see the oil is nice and clean in there. I'm just gonna make sure nothing's leaking and everything's all cleaned off so that there's no oil or smoke coming from the exhaust now that it's all cooled down. And just give it a good wipe off, and then we're going to start it up and let it run for a few minutes. The oil light should go off on your dash if there's sufficient oil in the bike. And you also want to make sure that if it does stay on, that you immediately shut off your motor and maybe take it into a dealer and have them check it over, but more than likely it'll be fine if you did this all the way I've done it here. So we're going to fire it up. Your oil light would be right there. Okay, so we're going to check to see if there's any leaks. I let it run for 4 minutes. You can see the oil's in the proper location on the marks there. And yeah, it's not leaking anywhere. So the next service is 7,000 kilometers or 4,000 miles, or the next 6 months. More likely it'll be 7,000 kilometers for me. I doubt I'll put 7,000 over this summer, but you never know. And we'll take a look at the oil. So there's no, some of the things you need to look for is that there's no white like foaming in it, meaning that water's in there. It's about 4 liters. You know, a little bit went into this little kind of extra that I had, and I'm just going to pour them back into there and make sure they're disposed of properly. And one other thing you want to make sure you do is, if you bought this bike new or you have the manual for it, it's always a good idea to write, you know, when you did the oil change. So as you can see, the first 1,000, I did it today, I did it myself, and I just did the oil change. And then the next one will be 7,000 kilometers, or that or near it. Obviously you want to do this for warranty purposes, so be sure to fill this out when you're doing your maintenance. Next couple rides, we're just going to make sure that, you know, there's no oil leaks from the filter or the drain itself. And maybe I'll do a future video on changing the gear oil in the back there. But I've got lots of videos planned for this. I do have the bar risers here. I just haven't installed them yet. I haven't had the time to do it. And so that'll be a video coming up. And I got lots of plans for this bike still. So I enjoy making these videos for you guys, you know, on simple little projects to save you some money and have the experience of learning how to do it yourself, and show you how I did it. I mean, obviously, you know, I'm self-taught. Everything I've done over the years, you know, but I've probably saved myself a bucket load of cash, especially with my WR and how much money I spent on that. So, but yeah, definitely, if you like this video, drop a like. If you have any comments or questions, please leave a comment below, and be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.